The Senate will please come to order. Members and guests will remain standing while we're led in our devotion by the chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
In David's prayer, he asks the Lord, "Therefore may it please you to bless the house of your servant, that it may continue forever before you." From 1 Chronicles chapter 17, verse 27. Let us pray. Gracious God, the operative word for us today, as it also was for David, is continue. For here we are, gathering again in the Senate chamber, debating and voting on significant matters, striving to complete the work of the second regular session of this 119th General Assembly. O Lord, bless these dedicated senators, their hard-working staff members, and all other support personnel who labor here on behalf of the state we love. May every South Carolinian give thanks for these servants as the work of this Senate continues. Also, dear Lord, we ask a special blessing upon Senator Larry Martin and his family in the death this past weekend of the senator's father. All of this we pray in your loving name, dear Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Senator from Greenville, for what purpose do you rise?
I'd like to be recognized to introduce the resolution.
Senator from Greenville is recognized to introduce the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's both with, this is an honor for me, and also with regrets that I stand here today at this moment to introduce a resolution that would attempt to honor a colleague who is leaving the body. I was thinking about Senator Thomas before I walked up here, and how how the power has moved around the state as far as the political power. We went from the governor, Carroll Campbell, to the Speaker of the House, David Wilkins, to a 28-year veteran of the state Senate, pretty much to nothing from that. Well, I was referring to myself when I said nothing. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. My friendship goes back with Senator Thomas well beyond 28 years. I had the opportunity to invite him to my church to discuss in a Baptist church predestination, and he spent 6 weeks with us. Yeah, it takes a short amount of time with Presbyterians to understand predestination than it does with Baptists, but that was my first exposure to a person that I believe is not only a good man, but as I'll speak to in just a second, but also one of the brightest people one of the brightest friends I've ever had, who continued to maintain a friendship with me. Thank you. He's got more degrees than most of us over 60 have illnesses, and that's a lot of illnesses. But as you know, Senator Thomas graduated from University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and that wasn't enough. He goes out to Texas and gets a couple of master's degrees out there, one in theology and one in philosophy. Is that right? Yeah. Well, you can philosophize in a minute, because I'm not going to make this protracted. I would say that not only has he made a tremendous contribution to the state of South Carolina and his service in the South Carolina Senate. And I've watched him all the way because we were elected at the same time. I was elected across the way, and he was elected to the Senate in the same year, and somewhat parallel paths. I was on county council, and you were on city council. In fact, that person riding with Terry Haskins when he made that citizens arrest still might have been you. I'm not sure. And all of us still miss Terry. He and Senator Thomas were very close friends and traveled the world literally with their wives. Senator Thomas has stood by his wife, who's with us, Fran, and delighted to see her looking so pretty as normal and looking healthy. At times she's had illnesses, and her closest nursemaid has probably been her husband, as he has stood by her and he has nursed his mom and dad through illnesses, and as their passing the last few years, I'm sure, has been a painful event. And he handled an attack at home in this particular election with grace and as a gentleman, and in a way that we would have expected him to handle it. I'm sorry he lost, but he did, and he's here probably with no apologies, and except to say that he did his best. And I would say that about you, Senator Thomas, that you were a mentor for me when I came over here, and I looked up to you, looking down at you, and I still do. I still look up to you, and will be calling you probably continuously in the future, as I have in the past, asking for your advice. And we're going to miss you in the Senate. We're going to miss you a lot. And this time, I'd like to ask the reading clerk, if he would, to read the resolution.
Reading clerk will read.
After which, I would ask the senator if he would come forward and make any remarks he would like to make.
Senator from Richmond, what purpose do you rise?
President, if the senator would withdraw that, I would like to make a few brief remarks.
Without objection.
Senator, just to echo what your colleague, Senator Greenville, said, we're going to miss you. I first met David Thomas, I think, in 1982. He had run for the city council in Greenville against my wife's cousin and beat him, and he wasn't supposed to. And it hurt a lot of people's feelings in Columbia that that happened. But he came to see me in 1982 to support a senator who wanted to run for lieutenant governor, Norma Russell, the senator from Lexington. He was her campaign manager. We were elected. Of course, she got 35% of the vote. I knew he was a political genius after that race. We were elected together in 1984. We had 16 new senators in 1984. Of course, I began with a C, so I was number 34. I got to serve on the Judiciary Committee and some other major committees. Joe Wilson was elected with us, and I think Joe was number 46, and I think Senator Thomas was number 44 or 45. They would sit on the back row, and occasionally Senator Dennis or Senator Williams or somebody would roll over and ask them to go get a cup of coffee for them, and they had absolutely no seniority. But we developed a very good friendship. He and now Congressman Wilson and I used to go to lunch once a week when we were in session, generally to the Shrimple, the old Shrimple, Senator over in your area, over in Casey. And we developed a very, very close friendship that has lasted for a long time. And there's been some very exciting periods things we've been involved in. And one of the things that really stands out, Senator, was in 1992 when President Bush was running for re-election, and we picked up a train in Georgia and went all the way across South Carolina. Beautiful fall day, October day. Big crowds turned out in these small communities. We were sitting up in a dome car, eating filet mignon and looking at the crowds. But both of us looked at each other. We're wondering, this was 1992. This is George H.W. Bush. If President Bush was campaigning in Georgia and South Carolina 10 days before the election, we were in deep, deep trouble. but we have many, many memories and friends. Just been a dear friend, your asset for many, many years. And just want to let you know that you're my friend. I will miss you, sir.
Senator from Pickens, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, make a few brief remarks from my seat.
Senator from Pickens.
I couldn't pass the opportunity. For those of you that don't know, Mr. President, members of the Senate, Senator from Greenville also, aside from being my neighbor, actually lived in Pickens County during his younger years, lived in Liberty, an area that I represented both the House and in the Senate. When I first started running for the House years ago, Senator from Greenville was involved in the Greenville city politics over there, Greenville City Council. The folks that knew him as a young person made note of him, and they were still there in Liberty, and we're so proud of him, having known him, gone to church there at First Baptist Liberty, where his father was the pastor for a number of years and was very well thought of. And later, when he ran for lieutenant governor, we had a little get-together there in Liberty. We had a good turnout for that, and a lot of fun, a lot of great memories of folks that he grew up with and folks that knew him and think so highly of him. Let me just say this, you know, all of us in public life make and meet friends through this work, and David has been a great friend. Best wishes.
Senator from York, what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make my remarks once
Senator
again from my seat, if you don't mind. You know, I just want to say just a few things about David. He comes from Charlotte, which is almost in my district. We count it as a suburb of Rock Hill. But in '92, I was in the House running for the Senate, and I was still I was at that point not a member of the GOP, but he and Senator Fair came to York County and formed a committee called Republicans for West Hayes. And I never have forgotten that. So if you want to know somebody to blame for my election, it's probably David Thomas and Mike Fair coming to York County to help me when I was a Democrat. And I've never forgotten that. But I remember our battles over the years. I remember video poker. I think we may have lost more than we won. Ultimately, I think we prevailed, at least until recently. Back on it again. I'm going to miss you with the pancakes. In addition to the shrimper, we go in and eat pancakes. My wife doesn't know about that, so keep that a secret. But I'm reminded of the saying that one man with courage makes a majority, Senator, and you have shown courage over the years, and it's been certainly an example for me, and we're going to miss you in the Senate. Thank you.
Senator from Clarendon. Senator Land.
Mr. President, gentlemen of the Senate, the senator from Greenville and I have been friends the entire time he's been here, and I just hold him in high regard, and Senator, your services in this body will greatly be missed because you have certainly distinguished yourself by your service. And to the legal profession, I may be solely responsible for him being a lawyer. When he was just a little young senator, he came to me, I remember, and we sat down and talked, and he asked me all about the law and so forth. Of course, I exaggerated it some, so, you know, about the income that you could make and so forth. But anyway, he was intrigued, and somehow, and I never have told him differently, he thought that I somehow could get him into law school. So when he asked me if I would help him get into law school, and I told him absolutely I could. And I did write a letter for him. I'm sure they didn't pay it any attention, but Senator, I promise you, you got in on your own, not because of any letter from me, but you truly distinguished yourself as a lawyer, and how you did it and served so well in the Senate, I don't know. Because law school was hard for me because I was not that smart. I had to study harder than everybody else just to keep up. But you served in the Senate and did your other business and went to law school at the same time, Senator from Cherokee. That takes a lot. And you've become a great lawyer, and I've just enjoyed my friendship with you over the years. And he's promised me for the last 20 years anyway that he was coming down to Clarendon County to go fishing. he's never come. But anyway, he tells me now that he thinks he might have time to come. So I got the fishing rod all but the worms have already died now, so we'll have to get some new worms, or maybe a cricket. But anyway, I wish you well, and your services will be missed in this body, and I'll miss having your everyday friendship with you, but I'll be right down there in Clarendon County if you ever need me, and I feel that you'll be there in Greenville if I need you. God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Senator from Lawrence, what purpose do you rise?
Make remarks from my desk.
Senator from Lawrence.
Service. Yeah, Senator from Clarendon, I'm going to compete with you because for 10 years he's been promising or threatening or asking to go with me when I'm not here. So I'm a working man. You remember Vern Smith would hold those hands up. You see these hands, they fix flat tires for a living. And I would go from the back here and I would check his hands every time he'd make that speech, and I would rub them and I was, yep, just like last time. Soft as a proverbial baby's. And he would look up at me and he said, "You're right, Senator. You're the only working man in the Senate." But David, we're going to do some work here one of these days when we adjourn. But I want to take credit for Senator Thomas spending 28 years with you here in the Senate, because in 1986 he was a shoo-in for the 4th Congressional District. Really, I mean, he would have been the congressman from the 4th Congressional District. He deferred. He let others of his friends run. I was working for somebody else, and I think I even tried to prevail upon him to consider not getting in that congressional race. Had he been in that congressional race, no telling what kind of congressional career or even beyond. But I know that he loves this body. I know that he has invested much in many of us, and the mentorship that comes with serving with a man of character and conviction will not be lost on me soon, and I appreciate it. I do love you. I thank you for your love for South Carolina, your love for your family, love for your constituents, your neighbors. You'll be missed here, but you'll certainly be the gain of many others outside this chamber. So, Godspeed.
Senator from Richmond, what purpose you rise?
Mr. President, would like to make some comments from my desk, please.
Senator from Richmond.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I've had the honor of knowing Senator Thomas for, I guess, back since I was in college. I'll never forget when I was in college and we were celebrating the Passover holiday, my father brought David Thomas and Jim Bryan over to our house on West Shore Road to help us celebrate Passover. As you know, David is a man of deep religion and faith, and he and my father would always sit beside each other and talk about our respective religions, and through that grew a great friendship that extended to me, for which I've been very grateful. I've had the chance and the pleasure of serving with you, David, in the Senate, for 8 years, and then, of course, as a House member. And I have some great memories, one of them being the time I invited you to meet me at the old Biscuit House. Where's Martha? Is Martha down here? Martha. Senator Thomas heard me talk about this place called the Biscuit House right across from Williams-Brice Stadium. And he said, "What do they have to eat there?" And he is somewhat of a connoisseur of fine food, as you know. And I said, "Well, they have these delicious egg and cheese biscuits on a cheese biscuit, scrambled eggs with cheese on a cheese biscuit, and these cinnamon rolls." And he says, "That sounds delicious. Let's meet there in the morning." So we met there in the morning, and we had our egg and cheese biscuit, and we had our cinnamon roll, and then he topped it off with a big bag of vitamins, okay? And if you've ever been around Senator Thomas, he pulls out this bag of vitamins, and I'm thinking, after all the junk you just ate, you're worried about taking a bunch of vitamins. But I think, and you and I have had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks about serving and what it means to serve and what it means to retire and to go back home and spend more time with your family and in your business. I think of all the issues that I've had the chance to work with you on, the one that I can't help but think of tops the list, and I see the senator from Georgetown, Senator Clary, sitting behind you, is the one dealing with autism. And had it not been for your openness and your leadership to allow several of us, Senator Clary and myself, to really take the ball, Senator Malloy, and run with that bill there wouldn't be services available to the thousands of children that have autism that is available today, and that's because of you and your willingness to get behind us. I can remember sitting in your office the last morning. We were on the last Thursday of April. If we don't pass that bill on that Thursday and give it second reading and then give it third reading the next day, we would have never made the deadline. And you have so much to be proud of. I've enjoyed serving with you, and always look forward to our continued friendship in the years to come. Thank you.
Senator from Lancaster, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, just a couple of comments concerning the senator from Greenville. Senator, certainly enjoyed serving with you over the years. You have an infectious optimism that is unseen in politics so much these days, and so I'd like to say that. And also I'd like to tell you that I appreciate very much your efforts on the part of combating litter in South Carolina. It's not an issue that we talk about every day, but it is something that's very important. You really took the initiative, must have been 10, 12 years ago now, to create Palmetto Pride, and that's been a tremendous program in this state that would not have happened had it not been for your efforts, and it's really, I think, gone a long ways towards changing the mindset, especially of school children in the state about litter, and the roadways in South Carolina are significantly cleaner today than they were 10 years ago, largely because of this program. And I'm sure you could probably tell us the statistics regarding that, but I know you have spent countless hours outside of this chamber working on that issue and working with Palmetto Pride, and every South Carolinian has benefited as a result of your efforts on that particular issue, Senator. So I just wanted to bring that up as people were making comments about your service.
Senator from Charleston, Senator Campson, what purpose do you rise?
President, I'd like to make a few remarks
Senator from Charleston.
about the senator from Greenville. Senator, first of all, I appreciate your many years of service. And as all of you know, that the senator from Greenville is not only a senator, but he's a lawyer, a businessman, and in that capacity, a barbecue, aficionado, a philosopher, and a theologian. Really, rarely do you see so much intellectual talent and diverse interest present in one individual, David, and I appreciate that you have brought that metaphysical perspective, the legal training, your business experience to bear in the legislative process, and it's made for better laws and better policy in the state of South Carolina. So you would have to conclude that you are really a Renaissance man. There's no question about that. And in fact, his interests are so diverse that many of you probably don't know that the senator from Greenville has an infatuation with surfing. Believe it or not, he does. He has an infatuation with surfing. He'll come up to me, and of course I love to surf, as you know, and I saw this picture, this guy rode the biggest wave ever ridden. What do you think about that? And unlike you, Senator from Clarendon, where he never showed up to your invitation, I had a standing invitation. Will you come down and surf with me sometime? And he actually took me up on it. Now, he and Fran came down and spent the night with me, and we went surfing. And I've often said, and many of you know, that humor is what really makes the Senate, this process, which otherwise would be unbearable, bearable. Without humor, and one thing I love about the Senate and appreciate is the interjection of humor from time to time. For example, we had great fun with the high school league this year, all session long, and I'm not going to beat up on them anymore. They supported our bill that got passed, but humor makes this process work. And I reflect during my career of many instances of humor that I still chuckle about, but I'll tell you, there is no humorous event associated with the Senate that is more humorous of the picture in my mind of David Thomas on that surfboard at Folly Beach at the washout trying to catch a wave, okay? That is probably, that clearly is the most humorous instant
associated with the Senate, Senator Thomas, I hate to inform you that I have ever experienced. And I just wish I had a picture of that to share with y'all. But because you'd only see it with the picture that I shared, because it will not be on the cover of Surfer magazine, I promise you, okay? But David, thank you for your service, and keep up your eclectic interest. You are a true Renaissance man.
Senator from Orangeburg, Senator Hutto, for purpose you rise.
For a few remarks.
Senator.
You know, not only are we, as following up what the Senator from Lancaster and the Senator from Mount Pleasant just said, you know, we're losing a senator, businessman, theologian, all this, but a czar. It's not every day that we lose a czar. I mean, senators come, senators go, but we don't lose czars but every so often. And I, too, want to thank you for what you've done to combat litter. I appreciated every year getting those letters from Palmetto Pride with the various grants that were going back to our districts to help with litter, which is a very serious problem in South Carolina. I don't know if anybody is the heir apparent to your czarship, but we will miss you. Maybe you will retain that. Maybe you will continue to be the czar, but we wish you well and we'll miss you.
Senator from Lexington, for what purpose do you rise?
A few remarks on my
Senator
good friend from Greenville.
Senator from Lexington.
I was fortunate enough to know David before he was a politician, before he was an elected politician. He was on the campaign trail for many people trying to raise them money, and I was doing a lot of cooking over in Lexington and all over the state for Joe Wilson and a bunch of Republicans. And I met David, and I do a lot of barbecuing and roll my grills around and do my chicken bogs, and we feed sometime 2,000 and 3,000 people at one time. And I remember, the story I remember the best was David found out that I used to work for Mr. Bessinger over at Peggy Park whenever I was a young boy. That's where I learned the trick of the trade on barbecue. David come to me, I call him David, excuse me, Senator from Greenville, but we go back that far. And he wanted to know something about barbecue ribs. He was opening up a restaurant or something up in Greenville in your district, I believe it was. Did you ever get the restaurant open? And he brought some ribs down for me to taste. David, I told you they were good, but I lied to you. I don't know how long you was in business, but they did develop into some pretty good ribs. Even Jake Moore, the law firm that you're affiliated with and that I'm affiliated with, Jake went up there and he came back and asked me one day, he said, have you been up to David's restaurant? I said, no, but he said, well, I went up and tasted the ribs. He said, that was the nastiest ribs I've ever eaten. So I went to David and I told him, I said, David, you got good ribs. And a couple of weeks later, a month later, it was gone, it was closed. But I tell you, David, you are a good helper with washing dishes, cleaning up at a barbecue rally, things like that. And I hope that see you back in the Senate because you're a heck of a lot better senator than you are a cook.
Reading clerk will read the resolution.
This is a Senate resolution to commend the Honorable David L. Thomas for his distinguished service on behalf of the citizens of Senate District 8 and to express deep appreciation for his contributions to the South Carolina Senate, to our state, and to his constituents. Whereas the Honorable David L. Thomas has served the citizens of Greenville County in District 8 in the South Carolina Senate since 1985 with enthusiasm, devotion, and integrity. Whereas in 1949 he was born and raised in South Carolina, the son of Harry Lee and Mary Brown Thomas. Whereas Senator Thomas graduated in 1971 with a BA degree from the University of North Carolina in Charlotte, 1975 with a Master's of Divinity from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas, and in 1979 a Master's of Arts degree from Texas Christian University. Whereas he served on Greenville City Council from 1979 to 1984 and as Mayor Pro Tempore from 1983 to 1984. And whereas Senator Thomas was a newlywed to his lovely wife, Fran, when he entered the Senate chamber in 1985 with a head full of dark hair. He leaves us this year with still a head full of hair, only it's a lot whiter now. Whereas Senator Thomas continued to perform his duties in the Senate and served with his constituents with unwavering energy while obtaining a law degree in 1995 from the University of South Carolina. Whereas during his tenure with the Senate, his many committee assignments have included the Corrections and Penology, Finance, General, and Medical Affairs Committees, and he currently serves as chairman of the Bank and Insurance Committee. Whereas an outspoken reformer, he's helped lead the fight for landmark residential property tax relief and welfare reform. As a prior chairman of the Senate Corrections and Penology Committee, he was a Senate leader in passing truth in sentencing and 3 strikes you're out laws. Whereas Senator Thomas has been recognized as a national leader on environment and beautification issues since his founding of the Litter Task Force in 1999, ultimately becoming Palmetto Pride, the Governor's Council on Beautification and Litter, a statewide beautification and eradication of litter program in South Carolina. Whereas Senator Thomas will be fondly remembered as a strong leader, a hard-working conservative, and an outspoken reformer. He has served his community in many capacities, including the Joint Legislative Committee on Children and Families, the Protection and Advocacy for People with Disabilities Steering Committee, the Palmetto Conservation Commission, the Blue Ribbon Task Force for the South Carolina Fatherhood Policy Project, the Associated Marine Institute's Board, and the YMCA Youth and Government Board. Whereas Senator Thomas remains extremely active and he continues to practice law in Greenville County. He and his wife, Fran, attend Calvary Baptist Church in Simpsonville, where he taught Sunday school. Whereas the members of the Senate recognize, honor, and celebrate the gift of 27 years of true and faithful service that Senator Thomas has so ably and humbly bestowed upon this Senate and the people of South Carolina. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of the Senate, by this resolution, commend the Honorable David L. Thomas for his distinguished service on behalf of the citizens of Senate District 8 and express deep appreciation for his contributions to the South Carolina Senate, to our state, and to his constituents.
The resolution is unanimously adopted. Senator from Greenville is recognized.
Gentlemen of the Senate, it is an honor to have served with you. I actually did not understand that there was a resolution coming. I thought the resolution they kept talking about was something for Mary, and so when they talked about it being delayed, I said, why are we delaying this? Just get Mary over here and get her resolution. What's the issue here? They said, no, this is your resolution. So I didn't know I had such a nice thing coming, and I really appreciate it. I thought if you lost an election, you didn't get a resolution. See, that's kind of how naive I am about it. I want to thank each one of you. You know, what you learn over the years in dealing with just everybody is that the respect you get, even if you disagree with people, the respect you get for the powers that are in here, and I don't mean political power, I mean the insights into things, the drive that individuals have. And I could go down the list of all of you because you've been teachers to me. I've learned from you, and I'm better for it. I remember when I first came here, I was just so naive about so many things at 34 years old. I remember coming in here in the first Senator, I was kind of walking around here, and I was all impressed with how pretty it was and everything. And the senator from Clarendon was the first senator that came in, and he looked at me, and I was standing over there, and he came right over here, and he stared at me for a second, and he said, "Are you a page, or are you that new senator? Because I want a cup of coffee." And I said, "Well, sir, I'm a new senator, but I'll be glad to get you a cup of coffee if that's what you want." So we've had a good relationship ever since then. We came with that team of, 14 new senators, 16, how many ever senators came in at that time. And so that was kind of a, brand new wave of individuals that were quasi-bomb throwers. I don't know how else to describe us. Always asking for roll call votes. Every time you'd turn around, Senator, you remember always asking for roll call votes. And now it's considered kind of a new thing, the roll call vote issue, like we didn't know what roll call votes were 24, 26, 28 years ago. the sense that I have as I leave is, it gives you extra time and all that, and so that's a positive about it. But what I'm going to miss the most are the individuals and the fluidity of ideas that we have. We hear a lot of criticism from outside also. These folks that are out there are kind of looked down on by so many people, but they serve a legitimate function. I have a great deal of respect for virtually all the members of that lobby out there that we depend on quite often to give us good and accurate information. And when they don't, that's kind of a different matter. But this is a group that's a fluid group. It's going to change. What I remember, what I'll continue to remember most about it, are the people, and that's what I'm going to miss the most, the individuals that you have this interaction with, and that ultimately, through it all, you have such deep appreciation for. And I do say very seriously, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss the individuals that I have learned so much from. Chairman, I'll just speak about you for a second, since I mentioned the other side over here. I don't quite know where to start because of all the individuals I've known, along with somebody like a Senator Jack Lindsey, for instance. What brain power he had. And let me tell you what, our senator from Florence is one of the most astute individuals I have ever come across, and the more you get to know him, the more I've gotten to know, the more I respect you. I want to talk about my leader for just a second. When we did all the things that we had to do, when the big break came, and controversial as it was, I guess I was part of that too, but 12 years ago when that happened, Senator Peeler was very much involved in that, and I think it's proper that you have been our leader for now these, how many ever years, and then prior to that, the senator from Florence. But Senator, you've done a great job. You've done a wonderful job in difficult situation being the leader of the majority, as Senator Land has done, been as leader of the minority. And you know something, we haven't had, how much acrimony has there been? Really not much, Senator. You don't see this bitterness and anger that we hear about in Washington. I commend the members for that. I commend the members for trying to be gentlemen and trying to carry themselves with deportment as we take on the serious issues. The new president, I would say to you, sir, I have looked up to you for so many years, even prior to going into the Senate. What a leader you have been, and how much I have learned from you over the years. It's been if I've grown at all, it's because I've been around great men and women that I've been able to absorb from and come out of kind of somewhat a shallowness, and I think gain some depth of understanding of the sophistication of the issues that we face. It's not easy. It's very hard, but we managed to pull it off with a lot of, I think, a lot of dignity. Now, I could go down the line of just all these individuals here. Senator from Pickens, my friend Senator Hayes, goodness gracious. I mean, the depth of friendship, Senator Fair, and I'm just looking, I better quit talking because I'm going to have to call everybody's name. How I love you all. Everyone.